Let's see. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3, testing, testing. Let's see. It looks like it should be working. Testing, testing. Oh, yep, I hear me. It's not even bad audio quality. Wonderful. All right. Good. So, wonderful. Hello, everyone. At the moment, we have 4 people viewing the stream at the moment. Hello in the chat. I enabled reactions, so you should be able to send reactions, like little hearts, if you really want to. This is a new thing. Apparently, people like emotes. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. Question from Eric, will this be posted on my Canvas? The video file itself will not be posted to my Canvas, as it's going to be quite large. The video itself will be hosted by YouTube. I will splice this into our usual server-side, the playlist. I'll splice this into the playlist so it looks seamless, and yeah, that's how we'll do this. I'll link to it on my Canvas, but this will be hosted on YouTube. So W's in the chat for the audio quality. Yeah, it's not bad, right? I think it's coming. Let me just test, see where it's coming from. I can never quite tell. Okay, so it is coming through my headset. All right. So we can go back and find this video? Absolutely. Absolutely. You can absolutely go back and find this video at any point in the future. I will never delete it. It will be part of my YouTube archive in perpetuity unless my channel gets taken down for me being too awesome a professor. So, yeah. How are you? How is everybody today? I don't have a pop filter on this thing, so the audio has been complimented. So I think W's is a compliment, right? F's in the chat. That's like something bad happened. So anyway, so we might as well get started then. So, for the purposes of posterity, this is a make-up live stream lecture type thing. Unfortunately, last week I was quite ill with the flu and I missed a couple of classes, so I'm making that time up now in the form of a live stream. It is the stated expectation of the professor, which is me, that everybody watches this at some point. Those of you who have arrived here right now, you have the ability to offer questions in ways that people who aren't here don't. So there you have it. Yeah, good. So let's get rolling, shall we? By the way, I am streaming this over Wi-Fi, so hopefully everything's good. We'll see. Oh, can I do a latency check, actually? And let me just check to see that the audio is synced up, okay? All right. I'm going to clap my hands, and if one or any of you could then, like, type the message clap and press enter when you hear and see me clap, that'll tell me how bad the latency is, okay? So, 1, 2, 3, clap. Okay, so about 15 seconds. That's not bad. That's manageable. Okay. 15 to 20 seconds. We can work with that. Pardon me. So, wonderful. So let's actually get to it, shall we? So, PHP then. So, if my memory serves, last time in class we got most of the way through this this document, Introduction to PHP, Data Types and Strings. I will blow this up just a little bit so it's more readable for you. There we go. That should be okay, right? Yeah, that looks pretty good. So we're going through some of the basic syntactic differences between our already known languages and PHP. In summary, PHP requires $signs in front of all variable names. It's a weakly typed language, so if you want to test type as well as value, you use the triple equals operator, just like in JavaScript. Yeah, we had some points about whether or not you want to do assignment inside of if statements. You don't ever under any circumstances. And yeah, that's we had just kind of gotten into talking about how you can work PHP into the HTML of a document. So let's open up XAMPP and get a server running, and we can get that squared away. Since I'm on Linux, I think I might just actually just log in to CS Unix. Oh, come on. There we go. There. Isn't it nice to actually be able to read the terminal? There we go. So, if we go to fall 2023, let's make, this is section 9, so let's make a directory for section 9. Let's make a directory, technically this is week 3, although this is week 2 material. I'll put it in week 3 so that it's done by date. There we go. And there we have it. Let me just make, I'll just make with Nano, which is it's an inbuilt text editor, page.php. And with this, we can, of course, splice in a bunch of our well-familiar HTML constructs. Give it a body. There we go. And put some PHP in there. There we have it. This very simple PHP program, but we're going to embed some HTML around it. So, let's see. I don't think you have any written code in PHP for a demonstration for a big task or performance. Will I post sample code on my canvas? Sure. Although at the moment all of my sample code is going up on my my public CS Unix, folder, so you can actually grab the code from there. I don't necessarily have to put it up on Canvas. Although, if you send me an email to remind me to do that, I'll do it for you. So, to access, and you can follow along with Prof on this, CSUnix .mohawkcollege.ca ~moore ~f 2023 section 9 week 3, and we called this page.php. And you can see we get our hello world in there. Lovely. Lovely, lovely, lovely. So, if you press the 3 dots on the chat, you can pop up. See the chat? Oh, yeah, that's true. Normally I do this with two screens, right? But yeah, thank you. This is going to get kind of crowded pretty quickly because I've got this guy going on too. Let's see here. Tile management. All right. Something like that, anyway. So, good. Yeah, normally it's like somewhat faux pas to have the chat running in the video feed of the video you're live streaming. But like I'm currently doing this inside of the department's recording room, but like the PC here didn't have OBS installed, so I'm gonna have to ask someone to get OBS installed on it so that I can like do actual live streams from here and use their nice fancy equipment, because right now I'm just on my laptop. It is a nice little room that's isolated though, so anyway, good. So one of the things that we would often do, sort of to demonstrate how you do things in JavaScript, is we would just take an HTML page and add some text to it, right? So, let's just add a script at the bottom to do that, and then we can see why PHP is a thing. So let's add ourselves a paragraph, end paragraph, give it ID equaling my paragraph, sure, and then script, there we go. It's, what is it? Not console, not window, document. Document dot query selector dot hashtag my paragraph dot inner HTML is equal to hello from JavaScript. And here, hello from PHP. So as you can see, both of these pieces of code have the same effect, but one is significantly shorter and more easy to use and understand than the other. The correct way to think about PHP is you're manipulating the text of the HTML file itself. One thing that this means you can do is that you can actually modify you can add JavaScript using PHP. This is generally known as meta-programming. But if I echo all this stuff, nah, this is going to be an issue. Let's use single quotes. This means that the script is now included in the HTML file by the PHP. So this is a way that you can perform edits and modifications of JavaScript, not just HTML and not just CSS. So it's a very, very powerful system. And of course, it's not going to do much because it's exactly the same as, you know, if 1 is equal to 0, then execute this. And you can see it disappears. We could, you know, because this is not included in the text of the file which is being sent to the client anymore, right? Because it's been turned off. So that's just a little flavor. So an important thing to know is that you can have multiple PHP tags inside of an HTML document. The correct way to think about this is that as the server is processing the PHP file, this guy right here turns on the PHP interpreter. Once the interpreter is turned on, it executes statements, and then once you turn it off, it goes back to just chunking out block text of HTML. So, good. Interestingly, this happens to be the case even if your PHP blocks of script are not complete programs in and of themselves. There might be a tendency to think of these things as if they had to be complete programs in and of themselves, but this is not actually the case. So, for example, if we take a look at this example here, you'll notice that in this PHP block, we're starting off an if statement. Then we end the PHP interpreter session. Well, we don't end the interpreter session. We just stop the interpreter for a moment. Then we've got a bunch more text. Then we start it up again, and we have an else case. Now, it's a little bit to wrap your head around, but this is kind of this is what's happening, right? If you imagine, and let's just well, let's see here. If I start an if statement, right? Let's say I have a variable and I want to branch on the variable. So apples equals 6. If apples is greater than 7, do some stuff, else do some other stuff, standard if statement structure. But if we end the interpreter session and then start it up again, do the same again, there we go, we can actually put fairly chunky pieces of HTML in here. It doesn't just have to be, you know, a paragraph that says hello. And braces and all that sort of stuff aren't required. We can actually do fairly complicated things like open up a div, close the div, maybe put a div inside that, close that div, paragraph, hello again. Maybe do another thing that you absolutely should never ever do, which is use inline styling, color red. There you go. Hello again, color red. It's inside two divs, which of course we can see if we pull this over to the inspector. You can see that that's been put, everything's been put the way that we've had it here. The problem that this solves essentially is that it's kind of clunky to like put everything in here inside quotes, and sometimes the stuff that you want to include also has quotes in it, and it's just a lot to manage. So you can put these big chunks of HTML text in, you just turn the PHP interpreter off, tell it, okay, this is HTML code again, and then it'll process it. So in this line of code, what would the results of this be? Let's see here. What do you got? Echo script, query selector, my paragraph, inner $sign script. That line of code inserts a script element containing a single I see. So Eric, that piece of code that you've got there will insert a script element into the HTML document, which looks up my paragraph and changes the inner HTML to be whatever it's being assigned to. The $sign there just means that the line's been cut off. So this is all good. This is all fine. But I'd just like to point out that we have split an if statement across 3 PHP blocks. If, for example, I were to get rid of the closing curly brace, it results in a parsing error, unexpected end of file. So the correct way to think of this, I have my file, I'm processing all of the PHP in it, so I've got one PHP interpreter session which is running. Every time the PHP mode gets turned on, it starts feeding instructions into the PHP interpreter instead of just chunking them out as output text. To understand why this first hello does not get output as output text, instead, why does it skip it if the if condition comes out wrong or false? You have to understand what an if condition is doing, right? What an if condition basically does is it says, if this condition is false, ignore everything in the true branch until you hit a false branch. That also turns off writing text into the eventual output. So it's simply off while this if statement is running, which is interesting, right? It's a very different way of thinking about programming. So there you go. So far, so good? Let me see. I used to be able to run polls. Moderation, timestamps. Let's see here. Engage with your audience. Ooh, Q&A now. Answer viewer questions live. That's kind of everything, though. This is also a way to see how many people are watching. Like, actively watching. So in PHP, good. So far, so good. 2 votes. Haha. So these tags are fairly compact. Another thing that we can do with them is we can insert values derived from PHP into, we can just splice them into the middle of lines. We don't have to have a whole line for it. So for example, if, let's say I wanted my ID here to be derived from a PHP script. Let's say paragraph ID is equal to my paragraph. Then, what you could do insert the value of your variable there. Now, so far we've been using echo. Echo, what did I call it again? Paragraph ID. We've been using echo quite a lot, but if all you're doing with a code block is just echoing something, there is a PHP shortcut for that, which is to say $! equals. So there you have it. Now that we've saved this and reloaded the page, if we inspect, you'll see that P does indeed have the ID myParagraph. So, very good, very good. What we can do with that, if we want to work in a script somewhere, script end script. Let's say we wanted to grab that and change it. Document dot query selector. We can actually pull this guy in, right? Paragraph ID, and then it will be spliced in our HTML is equal to hello world. So, if we reload the page, you can see hello world appears. Notice that the HTML code which is shown to us in our inspector does not contain any of the PHP tags, right? That's because all of the PHP tags are processed out of the file by the server before the client receives it. Remember, this is the client. The client only receives the text which has had all of the PHP elements already processed. That's why you don't see any PHP here, you don't see any PHP here. And okay, so you say, all right, sure, so it works. What's the point of it? The point is that now you can modify your paragraph ID. You can manage the paragraph IDs at the top of the file instead of, everywhere else, instead of having to do it manually throughout the whole document. If I wanted to make this paragraph ID equal to, for example, ace of spades, and I reload. Notice that it gets ace of spades instead. The change is made consistent throughout the document. The change is made consistent throughout the document. So this is a way of being able to parameterize things that up to now have just been hard-coded into HTML, which is, I think, a very useful thing. So, chat. Let me see. Is there any chat? No. Okay. Cool. Now, let's talk very briefly about our syntax for inserting things into strings. In PHP, you probably have seen me use it a couple of times. PHP. There we go. You've probably seen me use it a couple of times to say number of apples is apples. Remember, we have an apples variable at the top here. This is all well and good. Number of apples is 6. The value of the apples variable is extracted here from the variable that's been assigned previously and inserted into the string. You don't actually require a concatenation operation to do this. There are a couple of ways we can break this. Number one, by including single quotes instead of double quotes. You'll see that using single quotes, we end up with $apples. When you use single quotes in PHP, PHP takes that as a literal string. Nothing further should be processed on it. It should be interpreted strictly as the characters it contains. So, this can form some problems. Let's say, for example, well, I mean, that's just how it works. Next example. Let's go back to this. Let's say RAM is equal to 16. I wish to download RAM GB from the internet. This is a joke. You cannot download RAM from the internet. I have a parse error. Parsing error. Let's see here. Yes, well, semicolons are necessary. There you go. I wish to download 16 gigabytes from the internet. Now, anybody who knows anything about computers knows that gigabytes, there should be no space between the number of gigabytes and that abbreviation. So, there we go. Take away the space. Uh-oh, undefined variable, RAM_GB. So what it's doing here is it's waiting for the first space character to determine the end of the identifier for the variable. So the way that we break that is using curly braces. Curly braces are special symbols inside of double-quoted strings. They are used basically to wrap around values and expressions. I wish to download 16 gigabytes from the internet. And just for the sake of interest, cancel. Just for the sake of interest, let's see if this works. Interpret it as a string. There we go. There are some things that you can actually calculate inside these, but like you can call methods inside this, but in general, you should do your calculation outside of strings. There we go. Any questions so far? To perform concatenation, you use the single quotes. Yes. You even show when using double quotes. won't interpret that as a string, and will produce 10. Ah, yeah, so let me go through that example again. So 5 plus 5, echo 5 plus 5, echo 5 dot 5, and yeah, that'll be enough. Oh, throw some breaks in there. Ten, 10, and 55. So the plus operation is only addition in PHP. Things that aren't numeric types will be forced to become numeric types when they encounter a plus sign. So the string 5 is automatically converted to the integer 5. We then add 5, and boom, there we go. The same thing happens here, except the string 5 is converted to the integer 5 twice. Only with the period operator, which is concatenation in PHP, do we get the expected result for strings. Good. I need another monitor. This is atrocious. Okay. So, wonderful. If there are any questions about any of that, please put them in the chat. Otherwise, we'll move right along. I wonder if, like, Q&A works. Ask me a question. Yeah. All right. I think this is dumb. There you go. We'll just go back to regular chat. It is a Q&A. All right. Good. Moving swiftly on. So let's talk about control structures. So, pardon me. I was up with the kids late last night. My 2-year-old had a nightmare around 3 a.m. and the other one was up a few times too. Terrible. Although when my wife was up with them more, but you know. Anyway, so Boolean expressions. They operate about the same as you're used to. In general, your default should be to use Java-like syntax for these. The ones where the Boolean operator is written out in full text, those have interesting precedence rules. They basically bind very, very loosely. So they try to be the last operator to be executed, is another way of putting it. So in general, if you want your program to behave the way you expect it to, you should be using double ampersand, double or double pipe, and that's it. This is a point that I covered last time in class about short circuit evaluation. I called it lazy evaluation previously. Basically, if you have multiple conditions that are ANDed together, only one of them needs to come out false for the whole thing to be false, no matter what the rest of the conditions are. PHP knows this, and it will stop testing conditions when the game can no longer be won, shall we say. Once a definitive and definite result has been reached, it stops. Q&A is working, but seem to be a little delay. Actually, you know what? Let's start the Q&A, and I'm curious to see if it works, or how it works. So if somebody could post a question, even if it's not a useful or interesting question, if you could post a question, please do so. So, let's talk about if statements. So in Python, we had if, elif, else. In Java and JavaScript, we have if, else, if, else. Just to throw a monkey wrench into your plans, in PHP it's if, else if with no space, else. Although I tested it earlier and found that you can actually use the Java syntax for this. It's probably slightly less efficient or something. This syntax will still work. Aside from that, it's the same good old if statement that you know and love from previous. But a thing that will be new is the ternary operator. How was your day? Where does okay. How is your day? Fine, thank you. Where does a snowman keep his money? Oh, let me think. I don't know. Where does a snowman keep his money? Ternary expressions are a way of compacting an if statement down into the level of an expression, so that an if statement only occupies one line. This is good if you need your code to be compact and precise. So, for example, if I have a variable oranges, I can assign, based on the number of apples, if apples exceeds 10, then the number of oranges is 20. Otherwise, it's 15. Echo oranges. Or echo number of oranges is oranges. Oh, let's see here. I have an error on line 47. Unexpected 20. Oh, yes, I forgot a character. Question mark. There we go. Number of oranges is 15. So, I don't know if, like, you can follow up these, but okay. Do you get to, like, vote on other people's questions? Do I get to mark these off as answered? Huh. Select question. question is selected. Okay. I'm still kind of failing to understand the point of this. There we go. The snowbank. Ha 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 ha. Very nice. Alright. So basically, the equivalent here, if I were to write the same functionality, I would say if apples is greater than 10, oranges is equal to 20, else oranges is equal to 15. These two pieces of code are directly equivalent to each other. Ternary expressions only work if you're assigning to the same variable here, and it's a relatively simple if statement. But if it is a simple if statement, you can compactify that down to one line of code. Some people argue that this is more readable. I'm not sure I would agree, but you know, it looks pretty good, I think. So. Pardon me. So, switch statements are basically the exact same in PHP as they were in Java and JavaScript. The only caveat here is that the equality comparison being used inside the switch statement is a weak equality comparison, not the strong type-enforced equality comparison. So when we say switch target, that's using the double equals, not the triple equals. Can't do the hand sign for that. I'm going to check how many people we got. We got 6 people. Not bad. 5 people. Good. Good. Should we? How about I just introduce this guy here? And yeah, we can do a switch. So, switch statements, again, work pretty much exactly the same as they always have. Switch. But we've got this interesting guy, random. This just generates a random number in the range between the two specified numbers, which is a fairly simple thing, really, but, you know. In other programming languages, when we've done something like this, we have to go through the math library or create a random number object, that sort of thing. Here, you just say rand and give the limits, and there you have it. Okay, let's say from 1 to 5, case 5, echo 5, break. And then we ended off with a default. I missed. Now, reloading. Oh, did I? Yeah, there we go. Always gets me every time. There we go. Let's insert a break. This number at the end is the one we just generated. So you can see, as I reload the page, I'm getting different values randomly. So there you have it. So let's talk about loops. In general, this is going to seem very, very Java-esque. For loops in the Java sense are, well, a for loop in PHP is a for loop in the Java sense, in the regular Java sense. So you've got your three substatements collected up and separated by semicolons. While loops execute in the exact same manner as you would expect them to from both Python and Java and JavaScript. Basically, the for loop is just a rearranged version of a while loop. And we also have do while loops, which you definitely did hear about in Java, but it's entirely possible that you entirely forgot they exist because, honestly, why would you ever use one? Then we come to the thing where things usually differ. We have the iterator, or for each loop. Now, if you had Java with me, you will likely have heard me say a couple of times that what Java calls a for each loop, every other language calls a for each loop. So you remember our Java syntax for this. For data type element in collection, right? Then you do stuff. In PHP, you say collection as individual element, and you use for each instead of for each there instead of for. So yeah, and both of these are equivalent in functionality to the basic everyday garden variety for in Python. So it's really literally just, the thing has been slightly renamed. All of these loop structures can also be manipulated with break and continue keywords. So, there we go. Does anybody have any questions about control structures in PHP before we move on to the next topic? Good. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? That's one of the beautiful things about now that you guys have a couple of languages under your belt already, you should find that it's much easier to pick up a new language because many of the constructs that you use in your sort of everyday programming practice are common to all of these languages. They all use if statements. They all use loops. The difference it's really the differences that you have to learn, right? And, you know, PHP has a few differences. I would say there's probably more difference between PHP and Java than there is JavaScript and Java, just in terms of, like, you know, not necessarily organizationally, but in terms of, like, at the syntactic sort of individual expression level. But in general, you should be doing okay with this material so far. I see everybody has responded, yes, everything is cool. So that's cool. So, let's talk about file level. Well, actually, let me think here. Do I want to do that? Nope, let's do the exercise. Let's do an exercise now. So, because I'm not, like, in the classroom, it's going to be hard to do, like, an interactive portion here, but I will lead you through an activity, and if you could do more of them on your own for homework, that would be perfect. These problems I'm about to show you should be extremely helpful for assignment 1. So, under Introduction to Server-Side Programming, you have exercises problem solving in PHP. I would encourage you to click on that. So, this is a set of problems. There's an HTML file that comes with them that you're intended to manipulate slightly and plug your solutions into. So, or it's designed to communicate with the server. So, if you click this little download button right there, put it in home teaching. Do I have a folder for this here? You know what? Downloads is fine. Or right there. All right, good. I've got my HTML file. Now I'm going to upload it to the server. Since I'm doing this directly on CS Unix. csunix.mohawkcollege.ca. Successfully established. Public HTML. Going into Fall 2023, Section 9, Week 3. I have an practice1.html. Throw that over there, and let's take a look. Practice1.php, or HTML. There we go. So, so basically this thing consists of a bunch of cards, and the object, each one of these cards will connect up to a PHP script sitting on the server. You click the button, and it displays the results returned from the PHP script inside this little gray box. Now, there. At the moment, it's just giving me a 404 error because there is no PHP script running. It's instructive to take a look at the contents of this file. Open with VS Code will do. Get out of here. I don't care. I don't care. Thank you. So, first off, we have a script, function run PHP. We see this as initiating an AJAX request using get parameters, and the variable names of these get parameters are input var1 and input var2. This will be important later. Other than that, it's a fairly standard fetch request, AJAX request. There's a bunch of stuff in the middle of, like, I guess this is like SVG for a keyboard, the little keyboard icon. So there you go. Yeah. Source SVG repo keyboard. So this is SVG code for this little keyboard icon right here, which is why it scales. There you go. But this is the code that we're interested in. For each solution, copy this block and change its appropriate elements. So let's take a look at what we've got here. We've got this is the code for the button. On click, we are running PHP. This is the PHP file that it's looking for. So let's create it on the server, or let's create it, and then I've got a terminal session open. So nano temperature, what was it called? Temperature conversion .php. There we go. Let me see if I have any questions. No. So let's read the problem description. Write a PHP script called temperature conversion.php that converts a temperature input 1 from Fahrenheit to Celsius if the checkbox is checked, and Celsius to Fahrenheit otherwise. So let's open up a PHP script. The first problem we're presented with is how do we acquire data that's incoming from a GET request. It's actually given right here in the problem statement, or in the problem page. So what we have are so-called superglobals in PHP. They are associative arrays that contain the elements that the variables that have been sent via GET request. So as long as we know the name of the parameter that's sent, we can pick it up with this. So input var1. This only retrieves the element. We want to store the value somewhere, so let's say that that's temperature. Let's say mode is the second one. Input var2. Now, whenever you're writing code like this, I always encourage just quickly try it with sending an echo back. Red temp, temperature, and mode from client. I always recommend sending something back to the server just to establish that communication is working correctly. So when I click run PHP, read 0.0 temperature and mode true from client. So there you have it. Communication is successfully working. Good. Of course, we don't want that permanently, what we want to do is we want to convert from Fahrenheit to Celsius or Celsius to Fahrenheit, depending on the mode. So in order to do that, we need to write an if statement. If mode, echo one thing, else, echo something else. Now, let's reread our problem description. Fahrenheit to Celsius if input 2 is true. Okay. So, the true branch is Fahrenheit to Celsius, and the else branch is Celsius to Fahrenheit. All good. Wonderful. Now, all we need to do now is convert Fahrenheit to Celsius and Celsius to Fahrenheit. Fahrenheit to Celsius formula. So, C is equal to 5 over 9 times F minus 32. So let's say temp is equal to 5.0 divided by 9 times the temperature minus 32. Then we can output temperature, degrees Celsius. There we go. Now let's just quickly throw in the other side, Celsius to Fahrenheit. Using a little bit of math, we know that by reversing our operations, first we have to add 32. Then we have to multiply by 9 over 5. Nope, I got it wrong. You multiply these first, then you add 32. There we go. So, let's take a look. So, let's say 40 degrees Fahrenheit is 4.4 degrees Celsius. So how about converting the other direction? Uh-oh, we're still getting 4.4. Does anybody have any idea why this might be happening? Question, that's an actual question to the chat. Does anybody have any idea why this might be happening? I'll give you the answer. The problem is here at mode. I'm sorry, what was the question? It's okay. The question is, why is it borking? Why is it no matter what we do, we're always getting Fahrenheit to Celsius? And the answer is here's an answer. I know the button has not been refreshed, but I'm not sure how we would refresh the value before the button is pressed in our PHP. So see, that's not the issue. If I reload the whole page and I uncheck the box and I go for 40, doesn't really show up. I want 40. Even now, I get 4.4, regardless as to whether that checkbox is checked or not. So the problem is right here. The mode variable, we think it's a Boolean, but it's actually a string. And when you're reading this string, it's not actually strictly converting that string to a Boolean for us. This is one of the things, PHP's weak equality can sometimes be relied upon and sometimes it can't. So if you try to test to see if it's equivalent to the string true, we get nothing. Where did it go? Interesting. Oh, yeah, it's because it's echoing empty down there. There's a reason. There's always a reason. There we go. Now we get finally the correct answer. Yeah, the whole thing revolves around this this line right here. So if you're testing for Booleans, please test for those Booleans as if they're strings, or get the conversion right somehow. We're going to be studying some ways to perform input validation on these, which also applies typing to them. So in future, this won't be so much of an issue, but at the moment, that's a pitfall. So be aware of it. Good. So that's one question taken care of. Let's go in and find a second question. How about leap year checker? Sort of just picking them arbitrarily. So in order to add a new card to this HTML, there's a bit of a process. So to add a new solution, we copy and paste all of this card code. Next, we basically have to go through, and anywhere that it's saying P1, we want to modify it to say P2, because this is now solution 2, or card number 2. So 2 is there, a 2 is there, and a 2 there, and a 2 there, and a 2 there. Now, and a 2 there. Oh, and a 2 there, and a 2 there. And that looks like it's good. We also want to change the text inside this card so that it matches the question we're solving. There we go. And this is leap year checker. There we go. Good. So, oh, another thing though, we need to write the PHP script leap year, but right now we've got temperature conversion going on. So we need to substitute the name of the correct PHP script. There we go. By the end of this video, can you explain how to download CS Unix? I don't have it, and the server has to do it. Well, I can certainly address that. So throughout all of this, I have been remotely logged into the CS Unix server, right? This means that when I've been accessing these things, I've been accessing them through a regular HTTP request to CS Unix. It is also fully possible to do all of this work in XAMPP, or to use XAMPP as your server instead of the CS Unix server. In that case, if you're in a Windows operating system, you just open the files up directly in the directory, in the htdocs directory, and you can modify them. You don't have to worry about transferring them over. But for this one, because I'm working on a remote server, I have to use FileZilla. FileZilla is the one that works on on Linux. So this is very, very similar to WinSCP. Once you have connected up with your username and password to CS Unix, you just take the file that you want to transfer, click and drag. It'll ask you to confirm, and you overwrite, and there you have it. If I reload this now, you'll see the new card has appeared. So that's how you do it. Same process as you used for JavaScript to upload things. We're just uploading a greater variety of things now. So, good. Let's make a new PHP script called leapyear.php. We now it needs to check if input 1 is a leap year or not. Now, we only require one input here. So, we can, in fact, just remove that. And in JavaScript, we can just remove this as well. That will become an undefined value. The second parameter that we're... where are we here? There we go. So the run PHP function, which is written above, requires the name of the PHP file that we're accessing, the selector for the output element that we're putting it into, and the values of the two inputs that are being provided. Now, in this case, we only need to provide one input because that's how the question is written. So we're only going to be sending one input to the function. In JavaScript, whenever you have an underdetermined function, the missing parameters are given an undefined value, which is very likely to be passed on to the PHP server by this AJAX request. We can check that actually. So run PHP error 404. If we inspect here, network, there we go. The header, okay, it's defaulting to true in 0.0. Interesting. All right. Let's see what's going on there. Oh, I need to reload. Okay. I need to save these changes. Practice one, blop. There we go. Files transferred successfully. Reload. You can see the second control goes away. Looking at my network traffic, run PHP. I'm still getting the 404, but you can see that input to var2 has been sent undefined. So an undefined value has been sent to the server. Now, let's write our PHP script. PHP, close her off. Yeah. We want to get our input values the same way that we did before. So year is equal to underscore get, and we want to grab input var1. Input var1. Good. Oop. Boop. There we go. Now, we need to check to see if it's a leap year or not. A leap year is divisible by 4, but not by 100, except when it is divisible by 400. So, we can actually accomplish this with like one if statement. If year modulo modulo 4 and year is not year modulo 4 is equal to 0. That's one condition. If year modulo 100 does not equal 0, or yes, wait, equals 0, that's failure. And then within that, if year modulo 400 equals 0, then that's the win condition on that. So here we want to echo leap year. Otherwise, we want to echo not a leap year. Else echo leap year. There we go. Else echo leap year, leap year, leap year. Yes, yes, yes. And then else echo not a leap year. Something like that. You could make this logic more efficient, but there you go. Yeah. So let's oh, it still says temperature, but yeah, let's fix that. Temperature, no. Year. There we go. Upload. Okay. There we go. Now notice you don't actually have to reload here when you modify the PHP script, you don't have to reload the client in order to get the update. Since it's accessing the file at the time of the AJAX request. So 0, uh-oh, syntax error. Unexpected if. Let's see here. Unexpected if on line 6. Okay, let's take a look at line 6. Closing braces. Try that. So, the year 0 is a leap year. The year 1900 is not a leap year, but 1904 is a leap year. So there you go. Lovely. Incidentally, it's a good idea to be logging the responses you receive from PHP scripts to console, because as we saw, you can't always read all of them. So, yeah. Let's see, are there any questions? So I am using WinSCP to try and access those files, but it says I do not have access. Have you tried, are you logged in to WinSCP? It might be easier for you to send me an email and show me some screenshots, because I can't, I can't view your screen right now because I'm doing this, because, that's how that works. So, yeah. If you could shoot me an email with some of the screenshots of the problems you're having, I'd be happy to take a look. So, yeah, there we go. Wonderful. So that should be helpful. That little demonstration should be helpful for your assignment 1 submissions. Your assignment 1 submissions basically are not the first question. So assignment 2 is broken into 2 questions. The first one is not a million miles off of the leap year checker. It's basically a bunch of, sequential logic to determine whether or not a number has particular properties. You'll need loops for it, but it's not too bad. and then the second is to generate a times table. The second should work in some elements, some HTML elements as well, but I don't believe the first one has to. So there you go. This whole process should be very enlightening. Good. So there are lots of these problems. I recommend trying a few of them. So let's talk a bit about modularity in PHP. We are very, very swiftly catching up to where we should be in this class, by the way. I think with just this session and the session we're going to have tomorrow, I think between the two of those we should be completely and totally caught up to where we should be. So that's good. So when we think about modularity in programming languages, one of the major things that we're concerned about is the API which we are presenting to other programmers. In Java, the API are the methods of the class that you're writing. In PHP, the entity that a programmer, say a client-side programmer or a front-end developer, the thing that a front-end developer is likely to need to interact with is not a function in one of your PHP scripts, but the PHP script itself. PHP operates under quote-unquote file-level modularity. So where in Java we considered a method to be an action, right? In PHP, we consider a single PHP file to be an action. When the client sends an AJAX request to the server, it is requesting a PHP file, one singular PHP file. It's that AJAX request constitutes the client asking the server for something or to do something. It's asking the server to take some action. So actions are linked up to files here, not functions. So you might be saying to yourself, okay, Mr. Professor, sir, if files are operating in the same vein that functions were previously, what do we use functions for? You may have noticed that in all of the examples that I did so far, I haven't used a single function. Well, function-level modularity is still used, but for the same reasons that you would use it in Python, for example. You want to use functions to package together you want to package together commonly used pieces of code, stuff that you would be inclined to copy-paste, right? If you're finding yourself copying or pasting pieces, like a piece of code more than once, and when you copy it in, you don't actually perform any modifications, or you perform very slight modifications, that's a situation in which you really should be using a function. So this is good. Let's see if we have any questions. Yeah, okay. So this is how a function is declared in PHP. Function, pick a function name, provide a list of arguments, and we return some return value. Let's put that over into into our PHP script, and we'll see how that works. Let's go back to page.php. There we go. Function, hello, takes name, return, hello, name, how are you? Then we can echo hello Steve. There we go. Page.php. You can see we get hello Steve, how are you? Which is wonderful. The function has taken this provided parameter, substituted it in for the string in the correct place, returned the string, and that string has been echoed back to the client. Wonderful. In addition to our regular function declaration syntax, we also have anonymous functions, also called closures, also sometimes called lambdas. So, an equivalent way of writing the same thing is to say, let's do a new function. We assign to a variable, let's say hello2, the function parameters name, arrow, and then the return value is, this is another greeting for name. We can then echo hello to Steve again. Oh, we've got a syntax error. Unexpected double arrow, you say? Maybe the slides have lied to me. Expecting, okay. What am I missing? I think I'm going to have to take this back and take a look at it on my own time. I'll let you know what I find. But, yeah, that example didn't work for me. Which is fine. Okay. So, let me ask, are there any final questions before we wrap up the stream? We'll be continuing on at 9 tomorrow morning. Could I post the code? Yes. I could do that. That's 9/21/2023. There we go. And see, I don't know how to gate it so that it's only our section. Let me get back to you about it. I'll figure out how to I need to figure out a way to distribute it to like just our section. So, yeah. Okay. Question. Yes. I may have missed the explanation, but why would we split the PHP throughout the HTML instead of making one big block, for example, the if statement? So the reason that you would do that is it saves you time and effort writing out all that code. It's easier to just write HTML than to have to worry about writing it as a string in PHP. Because if you're echoing it, you need to echo it as a string in PHP, right? So if you have an if statement, let's say, just for the sake of argument, you have a PHP script that will either include or not include a bootstrap carousel, right? Bootstrap carousel is a big friggin' long thing, right? Do you want to try to manage writing that as a string in PHP? Probably not, right? So you just turn the PHP interpreter off, chunk out all that block text, turn it back on, and then it processes. That's the application. Does that make sense? I said I was going to split the video into smaller portions and upload it. Am I still going to do that? What? No. That's I think you misunderstood. That's how the camera records it when I'm recording an in-person thing. I stitch all those videos together and then upload it. So if you take a look at my YouTube channel, like my channel specifically, under playlists, you will find under server side, like it's just a 2-hour video, but yeah. Oh, this should be here. There. Ta-da. Good. Yeah, so there you go. Good. All right, well, I think that's everything for today. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Hopefully we will have overcome some of the technical difficulties. And yeah, thank you for your time and attention, folks. I'll see you around.